On here, I do know Cliff's trying to join in. I'm not sure of his technical challenges, but um, we're going to get started and do some ringing of some bells and make sure I get through our learning for today for the 45 minutes we have. So again, give yourselves some applause, ladies, for being here. I do want to kind of do a recap from not a recap, but I want us to take some time to review today's session, just very specifically of what we're going over today. So remember, we do the mindset shift, which is really trying to make sure you grasp this whole grant industry and what's happening in the grant world and the grant and contracting world. Two, I'm going to do a guided session. Again, we're going to focus on today. Remember, I said you guys need to know our five-step strategy on how to access grants and secure contracts. So today is really step 1 of 5, right? So getting on your mark is what we call it. It's like you learn what funding is needed to advance your mission. You have to learn what funding is needed for you to advance your mission. And that goes to calculating your freedom number and some other things we'll go into, which is knowing your why. Then I'm going to do an interactive section, which is going to show you how it works in the portal. And I want you guys to really understand how it works in the grant portal. So we'll be able to see that today. And then we'll do some Q&A. All right. So today's session, I want you guys to know that your participation is going to be rewarded. So as much as possible, again, jump into the chat. Jan, I know you and Marsha and both Rhonda, I think all put some things in last time. Just as much as possible, questions, thoughts, ideas in the chat so that it stays interactive. I do want to make sure we're recording this, so we're going to try to minimize the verbal conversation until we get into the Q&A session, but we're definitely going to make sure we stay interactive. The chat is enabled and you are able to chat. Still trying to get in. I don't know why you can't get in. So here's our outcomes. Remember, so now bells ringing. I said from last meeting, I want to make sure we're able to do this together because we know that if we want to go fast, we can go alone, but if we want to go far, we do this together. So I want to ring the bells with you in celebrating your ability to move your needle forward in accessing grants. So again, writing the things down that you're learning, understanding, and writing down how we can increase your winning in both access to grants or contracts. So where do you fall today? In the chat, 1 point. So we get 5 points today, ladies. And so, and these are going to accumulate for the next 4 weeks. The 5th week, we're doing our grant securing efforts and things of that nature. But for the next 4 weeks, we're going to allow you to accumulate your own points as to where you're at today. So today, and I know we had get your UEI, which I did push to next week for points because I know some people have had some challenges getting that. And getting your green light from MHM, I pushed it last week because some of us got your things in, I think by midweek or by Wednesday, Thursday. We were doing grant submittals on Friday. So you probably won't get your green light till Monday. And so I pushed that to next week. But for this week, 5 points. If you've uploaded at least 2 documents in your grant vault, right? Did anybody raise your hand or put in the chat if you guys did that? Let me see. Put at least 2 documents in your grant vault in the portfolio. Good. Okay, 1, 2. Good. All right. If you created your priority passion project, that's another point. Okay, yes, good. 2 point. Receipt. Now this one's green because again, we would have to provide you the link that would allow you to create your fact sheet. And so right now, or actually during our interactive portal, you're going to get a link when we get to the interactive section, and you're going to be able to complete that today. So you'll be able to get your point today to create your fact sheet today, right? Or before the end of the day, right? Because it may take a little longer for some of you, but the goal is to get that done, to get your points today, and we'll get that information back instantly as soon as you're done. So you'll get a point for that one. The 4th one if you guys have scheduled your on your mark coaching session with Coach T, or if you've had it, as long as you've scheduled it, or if you have it, or if you've had it already, then you get a point for that. And then in the grants portfolio, I want you guys to put in the chat, and it's going to let me know if you've watched it or not. I want you to tell me in the chat, what is a RFP? What is an RFP? Because if you watch the videos in our learning sessions for grants, you know what an RFP is. And we went over this at the last week's session, so this is just a bonus for those that were on last week. What is E3 stand for? What are those 3 E's that you want to make sure you're aligned with in order to be in the high probability of getting grants? Okay. Let's see. I didn't see any what RFPs are. Okay, haven't watched them yet. Okay, so you got to watch some videos. So RFP stands for Request for Proposals. An RFP is a request for proposals. If you are pursuing contracts, they could say RFQs, which is request for qualifications, because at that point you're a professional service provider, and they call them RFQs, request for qualifications.
I know what the 3 E's are.
Okay, type it in the chat. The 3 E's, put in the chat as to remembering and taking good notes. Good on you, Jana, for taking notes as to what the 3 E's are. And again, you guys, the 3 E's are so critical because everything that we do is going to align you to be in the larger space of where grants and contracts are funded versus operating on the outskirts to the left and to the right. Yes, environmental sustainability is one. Economic development. I'm sure you're typing that. That's a lot of letters, Jana. 2, and equity. Yes, 3. And that equity one is in equity and social services, social justice, entertainment, arts, education. I say education, social services, social justice, health, arts, and entertainment. So in preparation for next week, just know that you can work on your green light for your UEI and make sure you get your documents uploaded in your vault. By the end of week 2, we will send a green light for everyone who has completed their checklist items, right? You'll get points for that, but you also have to have that in order to start submitting grants. So really work on getting your checklist items in for your vault. So before we go into this week's learning, just any questions, I know we had the Wednesday Q&A session. People jumped on. Thanks for that, to make sure you guys got some clarity. Regarding this is a key one, regarding your freedom number. Did everyone get their email on your freedom number in regards to how to create what your freedom number is? And was that, you guys good? You got it, Jan? You got it, Marsha? Rhonda, were you able to see that in yours? Okay. Does anybody have their freedom number? Did anybody calculate it? And if you guys did, this is you can go ahead and speak out and tell me what was your freedom number.
I'm wondering if I did mine correctly because my freedom number was rather high.
Good.
But I'm also assuming it's because I included all the debt, including student loan debt. You know, quite a bit of degrees later, as you in a lot of student debt. So my freedom number was closer to like 11 million.
That's, you know what? That's if you have, you have 3 degrees, Marsha?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yours is going to probably be higher than most because of that. And I know you're doing innovation and technology, right?
No, I'm doing like the retreats and stuff.
But I thought you were also trying to create a web-based platform so everyone can access your retreats through website, right? It's a web-based promotion and marketing, or no?
No, I do
Okay.
like ads and stuff.
Oh, you partner with someone to do that for you. That's right. You did tell me that. So 11 million is high. So let's talk about what how you got that then, because I'm thinking, 5 or 6 is kind of where we're thinking 5 to 8. Or
Well, if I don't include the student loan debt, then it's like 3 or something, like 3 to 4. But because of
okay,
the student loan debt, yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
pretty high.
high. Okay,
Yeah.
that all right. So that you probably did it correctly. I would
hmm
probably stand in that space with having done it correctly. Jan, did
hmm
you calculate yours? You were Rhonda?
I have the form here. I wasn't for sure if we were supposed to start with what I made in my personal job or was this for the business what I made?
Your person where you're at right now, your today income. And if you're
Okay.
getting a little bit from your business as well as from your job, you can combine them together.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead and work on creating those numbers. And then the reason why, as we go through today, just you can today you can arbitrarily pick a number, right? As to in your head as to what your number might be. But as we go through today, it's going to be key for you to keep that in mind as to why the grant request for proposal matters to you, right? And how do you get to that space? Because when it's all said and done, um, this is all about doing good and doing well, right? So doing good, we want your business to flourish. We want your mission and priority passion project to get the resources it needs. Doing well means at some point, and this is where a lot of the executive directors of nonprofits and CEOs of for-profits, you end up burning yourself out because you don't have a real exit plan, right? Where you can step outside of your business and you're working on it versus in it, right? As long as you're in it, you're going to consistently feel you're necessary to get to that 11 million, you, Marcia, or whatever your numbers are, Jan and Rhonda. But if you're not working in it, you can step on it because you're free now. You can hire people to do things, and you're able to operate in a place of freedom. And that's really where we want to be, where we're debt free and operating from a place without obligation. So so as we go into today's lesson, you guys, I want to just say that from the coach's corner, again, my mantra is we have to change the 1%. We all understand the climate we're operating in. We all understand what's happening with the democratization of the local government or government as to how they're looking to privatize a lot of um, the entire government. But the goal for us is to say, why does that number even matter, right? And why do we need to be able to effectively communicate our priority passion project to make people be able to visualize what it is we're doing? Because, and I say visualization purposely and not just tell people, because the key thing with grants, and it's your responsibility, and that's what I really want you to get from this coaching session today, is that it's really your responsibility to get whomever you share your priority passion project with, that they can envision it. We don't want people to just hear it, right? I don't want people to just read it, even though we're grant writers. We don't want people to just read what's happening. We want them to visualize what's happening. Sorry about that. And in visualizing what's happening, they're going to be able to now immerse themselves. And then the goal is to get them to see what it is you envision happening as a result of you carrying your project innovation project forward, right? And if they can see it, that's the first. Oh, wow, this is amazing. I can see myself in your workshop, or I can see myself in your sessions, Jen, or I can see myself in your shop and being a vendor, carrying out and doing my business, Rhonda, in your building of entrepreneurs that are doing hair. But the thing that matters is if once they can see it, do they understand the problem that you just solved? Do they understand the risks that you've helped to eliminate for each individual that's participating in your business or in your program or supporting your innovation? Do they understand and do they now see, oh, wow, they're minimizing the risks of that entrepreneur failing. They're minimizing the risk of that individual now living their life and moving forward and making better decisions because of my counseling or because of my services or because of my coaching or my retreat. Do they understand very clearly from what you said? And I'm not talking elevator speeches. I'm not trying to say you got to say it quickly and fast and it's got to be short. All those things are helpful. I'm saying make sure it's clear enough so that the person you're speaking to, writing to, or talking to can see and understand clearly the risk that you're helping to mitigate by your project. When you help the person understand the risk that's mitigated, and I want you guys to think of when the COVID-19 was out, and we had to think of Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson and Johnson. I want you to think about how we had to envision the risks that they were helping to mitigate. Whether we agree with the shot or not, right? Whether we agreed on whether we should do it or not, we could clearly see that there was a risk that they were mitigating of us being sick or us actually dying, and the risk was being mitigated by their program project, and in this case the shot, right, the product, right? So we could envision it. And now, did we understand it? Did we really understand how they made it? Did we really understand the technology behind it? Did we really understand why Moderna's was different and one shot was here and two was on this one and one over here and one was 6 months, one was 3? We didn't understand the depths of the engineering of it. But what we did understand, going to number 2, was the consequence of no action. Now, again, we can make educated decisions on whether we wanted to take that risk or not. But the second part of clarity in your writing and expressing your priority passion project is being able to make sure that the individual you're talking to, speaking to, or writing to understands the consequence of no action, of not participating in your conference, of not participating in your shop, of not participating in your counseling sessions. What are the consequences? And some people call this fear marketing, and I'm not sure if it's fear marketing or if it's fact marketing, right? Because you have to get the fact out there. Right now, we just did a prison reentry grant. And we are talking about, oh, they got to reenter and we got to help them get housing and some things that will help them stabilize their living. And the key thing that was really glaring that we continue to repeat in almost every situation was the consequence if this project was not funded. So we kept talking about the increase in crime, the increase in recidivism rate, the increase in alcoholism that leads to crime and burglaries, and the number of crimes that are committed by people who were previously in prison that weren't able to successfully recidivate into stable housing, right? So we kept making sure the reader could envision the magnitude of importance of making sure this individual doesn't recidivate, right? Or doesn't fall back into a space of crime and reasons for them to be imprisoned again, right? So again, I'm not going to belabor the point, but I want you guys to think about when you're writing, when you're discussing, and when you're communicating your priority passion project to a potential funder, ask yourself, hey, have I done a good job of showcasing the risk of a specific action over another that would help them understand if this project is not funded, what the possibilities or the detriment would be, and the consequence of no action on their part, what could possibly be the grave experience we all could experience, or a community could experience, or the individual could experience if they're not engaged in a program, product, or innovation like yours. So my coach's corner for today is, hey, you guys, let's just make sure we're communicating with clear narrative that causes people to visualize what's possible. Okay. When you do that, it's going to impact, as you all know, the 4 key sections of every grant. I would make you put it in the chat, but I'm not. But the 4 key sections of every grant, when you do that, you will help them, the reader and the reviewer, understand the need for your project, because you're going to talk about present conditions. You're going to help them understand how you're the capable person because of your history and performance in doing something similar to what you're proposing. You're going to help them see the hopeful impact, the outcome, the consequence of no action. And that's all in your program design. When you talk about, here's all the things I'm going to do to make sure this works, that's the hopeful planned impact. And Excuse me. And then the last one is your success measures. And because you will fund my project, basically is what you say in the evaluation. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the outcomes. Here's how many lives we're going to save. Here's how many shots we're going to give. And here's how this whole thing's going to get turned around. And all of a sudden there's not going to be a pandemic. Let me show you in the narrative before you fund me what that success looks like and feels like, right? And so I think we can hopefully grasp that it's really important for us to get people to imagine, get your readers to imagine, get the people you talk to imagine. And I'm going to even charge each of you on the call today to get people to imagine your priority passion project at least once this week. Maybe twice. I'm going to put 2 out there because we're overachievers. I want you guys to get 2 people, talk to them about your priority passion project and get them to imagine it. Imagine it. Give them creative words. Give them, I want you to imagine a world that, right? You can almost even go there. Just want you to get into the vibe of getting people to imagine. And then when you do that, what's going to happen is 2 things. They're either going to have an unfulfilled expectation regarding what you're planning to do, or they're going to have a fulfilled expectation. Meaning they're going to feel as if, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I would love to be a part of that. That feeling should exude from them as a result of you explaining clearly what your PP is. So imagine is the road forward for my coaching call, for my coach's corner today. Make people imagine. So getting into our session for today, I want you guys to understand it starts with you imagining your freedom number becoming a reality. And so as you imagine your freedom number becoming a reality, I want you to say, okay, as I get on my mark, understand there's 2 reasons. One, you want to do good. We got to keep pushing your priority passion projects forward. We want to make sure we're making things happen. But your why also has to be to get to your freedom number. Because as we help others, my vision is that you're always helping yourself. When we do our proposal, our narrative to our panel, I want you to remember that. Write it down. Let them know you're looking to do good to help others, but you also are in a commitment to stand firm and step outside of your business and work on it versus in it, which we all have to do when we start off. So today's session, I want to help you guys understand what funding is needed to help you advance your mission, your priority passion project, and get one step closer to your freedom number. So the first thing you have to do for this session, our number 1 step in learning what is needed to advance your mission project is deciding if your project is an E1, and Janet put them in the chat. Decide if your project is an E1, E2, or E3. So go ahead and put that in the chat for me. If your project is an E1, an E2, or an E3.
Can it be 2 or just 1?
I'm going to ask you to narrow it down to 1. It can be 2. Believe you me, it definitely can be 2. And only for the sake of when you get ready to start looking for grants, it's going to be more difficult for you to start with 2. You can always go back and do the other track later, right? And find opportunities that fall under your other E section. But for right now, just say, okay, I'm going to stick with equity and in social service or social justice. I think that's what you're in, Jan. Maybe you're doing E2, Rhonda, I believe, from your economic development, trying to grow small businesses within your business. And then Marcia with your retreats. Yeah, you definitely fall within 2. I don't know. I would think maybe were you leaning towards E3 and what was your other E you were leaning towards?
For me?
Yes.
I was thinking E3 or E2.
Okay. Okay. So once you decide, and it's okay, because believe you me, there's tons of opportunities that will come forward from both. Okay. Um, Once you decide where you want to focus initially, then you have to realize how to read a summary tool to decide which grant opportunity you want to move forward with. So I am going to give you, well, so a request for a proposal, let me just start with that. Requests for proposals are typically 50, 60 pages long. I wish, again, we share this in our resource library. If you go in, you'll see it. They're sometimes 100 pages long, right? And it's a lot of history on where the legislation came from, why they're funding it, all the do's and don'ts in the grant, all the attachments that support the grant. And then there's a section that's maybe 20 pages, 25 pages, 20 pages probably max, that talks about what they want you to specifically do to get the funding, right? The grant narrative you need to submit, the budget you need to submit, the supporting docs, the scope of work, probably about 20 pages out of the total RFP. One of the things that you will run up against is the time commitment to pursue grants, which is we're trying to minimize that so we can get as many grants out as we can. Remember, we talked about that, is to create a grant summary tool. So the ideal is, what if we can just take all those 100 pages and snap them into a summary, one page, and just tell me real quick what I need to know regarding my focus area. What I need to know from that 100-page document, 50-page document in one page, so that I can make a decision whether or not I need to pursue this grant. Is it going to help me get one step closer to my freedom number, or is it going to get me one step full or closer to getting my PPP funded? And I need to be able to make that decision pretty quickly, right? Because remember, there's over 200,000 opportunities out there at any given moment. And so if you had to sit down and read the RFP for everyone that you could potentially be successful in winning, that can take a lot of time. So the reason we're creating your grant fact sheet is to minimize 1/4 of, 3/4 of them. So there's only like 1/4 left. And now that 1/4 will show you how we're going to narrow down to the top 10. But even in the top 10, that's a million, 100, 1,000 pages that you might have to read if they're 100-page RFPs for each one that's in your top 10. So then the question becomes, how do I read a summary tool so I can make that decision quicker and faster, so I can get closer to that submitting a grant quicker and faster? Does that make sense? That you don't want to spend a lot of time just trying to decide if it's eligible, and you want to spend time more and more to get to that one that you can start pursuing. So that being the case, I'm going to show you guys a summary tool, right? And this is, again, the full RFPs are in your resource library. You can see them. If you click on grants pretty much anywhere, there are always going to be tons of pages. I'm going to show you a summary tool so you can, and we can learn how to read them with our e-focus in mind and be able to determine whether we should pursue this opportunity or not. So I'm going to pause. And you guys can still hear me, right? No. Yes? No.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so do you see this RFP summary tool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the key thing you want to look at is just, and in our portal, once you get your top 10, you can say, oh, I don't want to read the whole RFP. I just want to see the summary. Just give me summaries so that I can see whether I want to move forward or not. This is an old one, but the data never, the key areas doesn't change. Date that it was presented is the date you basically find it. So as soon as you put up on our portal, it'll put today's date in it, right? And that's the date that you can know, okay, this is when I recognized it, and this is when, and this is where, let me see if I can zoom. Is that better, you guys? Can you see that? Okay. So if who is presented by, again, that's going to say MHM or yourself. I forget what comes in the pattern. And then it's presented for you. So the name of your PPP will come here instantly, right? So it'll say presented for Jana's Priority Passion Project, name, whatever it is. Now, the funding agency, this would be EDA. As you build your projects, you have to ask yourself, this is a key question, funding agency, have I received grant funding from them before? That's your first question. And then have they funded E1? If you're an E1, you want to say, have they funded E1 projects before? Have they funded E2 projects before, or E3? So this is the Department of Commerce, which is job creation. It's an E2 project for sure, right? If I were an E1 and I read the summary tool, which probably would not be the case because we've already narrowed it down to your top 10, but if you read your funding agency and it said, oh, I've never funded environmental sustainability before, then you would already put a red flag on this summary tool. I'm not going to say don't pursue it yet, but you would put a red flag on it because if you're like, they've never funded environmental projects before, I don't think I'm going to be the first one unless you got some amazing environmental projects, right? But so let's just say you just in your mind you're thinking, okay, funding agency one, have they funded me before, or have they funded my E1 or E2 or E3 type projects before, right? In the history, prior awardees, you'll be able to see some of the projects they funded if you don't know the answer to that. Then you go into the project name. Your project name is just what they're calling it. Typically it gives you a clue as to what they're trying to fund. This one I'm not too sure. The RNTA, I have no idea what that means, but
I
go ahead.
oh, I'm sorry.
Were you going to say something?
No, I took myself off of me. I was talking to myself. Sorry.
Oh. Okay, so the RFP number typically is not as relevant as anything except for if those initials typically give you an idea of what type of project it is. It can say reentry, it could say how homelessness, it could say business development. It'll say all kinds of things in the RFP CDFA number. But the key thing is to go to the due date, right? So I'm on this grant, I'm looking at it, and it says, oh, it's no submission deadlines. What does that mean? It's an open entry, meaning I can submit anytime. So if I looked at different opportunities and I got 2 to submit, I might make this one number 2 because my other one might have a deadline and I might want to get that one in sooner than this one. So automatically this goes on my probably to submit list because it has an open due date. There's no, I got 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 week, whatever to get it in. It's open. I mean, I can submit an application at any time to receive funding from this as long as it's potentially funded, right? And there's no additional due dates. So then it says funding date, right? So under the funding date, this says typically this year is what you want to look for. If it said, oh, it's this 2025 opportunity, and we're funding in 2027. How many of us want to wait 2 years before we get our funding? Not many. If it said 2026, I still might put a red flag on it. I might not even want to wait till 2026. If I'm submitting in 2025, especially earlier part, I want to see a due date of 2025. Okay. The proposal length is typically always 12 to 15 pages. If it starts saying things like 25, 40 pages, again, that's a lot, but you do have the portal assist you, so it may not be that daunting, but it's still, that's a lot. The full or LOI means it's a full application versus a letter of intent. An LOI is a letter of intent. I would possibly, if this said LOI, I would do it hands down. A LOI is simply a one-page narrative that you will always have in your grants library that you can submit for any grant. So if it says a full application, we got some work to do. If it says LOI, do it because that's just a 1 or 2 pager. They're looking to get some money out. They want to just get some resources out, and they want to get projects that they feel comfortable with up front. They'll create a short list and they'll typically call you and say, hey, you made the short list, and now they'll ask for a full, but you're already on that short list as a pre-eligible identified potential project that they want to fund. All right, so then you go to the funding amount. It's like, okay, 2.5 is what on a case-by-case basis, they said on average BT it's about between 200 and 500K. You have to ask yourself again, my freedom number is X. Does this help me get closer to that in a significant way? If the answer is yes, again, that stays in your to consider pile. Sometimes these numbers are 5,000, 10,000, even though we're going to do mini grants. I despise these federal and state agencies that do that because they can they have so much more to give. And the same amount of time you're going to take to respond to this opportunity would be what you would take to respond to another one as well. So you're going to look at the funding amount and say, 200 to 500, that does get me closer. So it stays kind of in your green column, and you want to stay in that yes column with this. Then it says funding period. So this one again was funding. It was issued in 2021-22. They were going to fund in June, between June and August of that same year. So you're like, okay, that works for you. Total number of awards, 15. Okay, that's a good one. Total number of awards. So what would be a good number here and what would be a horrible number here? So a great number here, just to give you guys an idea, would be if they're funding 75, right? 75, 100 applications, right? Typically they get about 200-300 quality applications. They probably get more than that overall, but once they narrow down to those that are quality, probably 200 to 300. And so if you are submitting quality applications, which we all will, you're automatically 1 out of 3 if you see a large number like that. So again, when I see total number of awards and we see numbers like 50 and 75 and 100, we go for it, right? With multiple clients, because we know our chances of getting funded are high. Low numbers, 1 through 10, typically are the stay away from numbers, right? Unless we're partnering with the state, federal, or local government agencies. But 1 through 10 are typically your stay away from numbers, because it's a very challenging competition. Again, unless you're partnering with local governments, which we have done that, and we encourage our clients to do that as well, and you to do it. And so if your partner says, if your partnership platform fact sheet says, oh, I have a partnership with the city of, this opportunity would show up. And then when it ranks it, which will show you that, it's going to rank it high, because they know that you would probably be one of those 1 to 10 individuals that would get funded, because you have the type of partnerships they're looking for. Cost sharing means, hey, I'm going to give you 2 to 500,000. You got to put up 10%. That means 20,000, or 5% at 10,000. And so you have to know your own budget to say, can I put up that match? So this one says no match. So we clap, we put in the green column, we get excited, because we don't have to do any match to get that 200 to 500K. If it says a match, it'll have a percentage here, and then you have to determine whether or not you are able to put up that percentage of match. Write this down. There's a video we have in our library that talks about how to meet the match, right? And the match doesn't always have to be dollar amount, right? It doesn't have to be my money out of my bank account to match. So you can listen to that and understand how to make a match when it does say a percentage there. And then prior awardee types. So now it's like, okay, I'm a nonprofit, I'm a for-profit. This is great, because this one, they funded nonprofits and for-profits. This breaks that myth that, only nonprofits get funded. So if I'm a for-profit and I'm in the Department of EDA's grant opportunity, Department of Commerce, I am an eligible entity for this grant, right? Nonprofits and educational institutions. So again, I have to know where I fit in my type of organization I'm running, type of PPP I'm looking to submit, where I fit into their eligibility criteria. So great, I fit, I'm happy. And then I go into prior awardees. Have they funded? I said that already. Then the award ceiling, you can't ask for more than 3 million. You're like, okay with that. The average is 5. We were already good with that. Additional notes. You're like, okay, great. Last year they only unfunded 5. This time they're doing 15. That's a good sign. They're going up, not down. Thumbs up on that. And then eligibility. We already know we're eligible, but you want to look at that eligibility criteria and make sure you can find yourself in there. For-profit organization, yes. Nonprofit, yes. Whatever you are. Then you go down to last. I'm gonna go through this. I'm going through a little slow. This will be sent to you guys post this meeting, so you'll have it to go over. If it's a restricted service area, meaning if it said, we're not funding California or someplace you're at, you're not eligible, and you would not focus on program services for that restricted service area. Special requirements, always read them. Typically, it tells you things to do in the narrative. Our software pulls those out, and we make sure we address those when we help you write the narrative, but you always want to read them. And here's the purpose. Now, this gets into, does my PPP match their purpose? When you do this, there's a scoring. I want to show you guys this right after this. as to how this works within our platform, and you're going to have to do this week. This is going to be your interactive lesson for the week, okay? To be able to get to the point where you find the opportunities that work for you, because we got to get one step closer every single week, right? So we got to find these opportunities that my PPP matches. So the purpose of the funding is to be able to look at these bullets that they've identified in their request in the RFP or RFQ, and say, yeah, what I'm doing, does it match their purpose? Does it strongly match it at a 10? Does it kind of match it as a 5, or does it not match it at all as a 1, right? So you have to try to assess this from your own intellect and knowledge, is how close it is. We do it too. We'll show you how we help you with that. But if you were just looking at it on your own, you'd have to read this and then make that decision. So, so that's the purpose of the funding. I'm sorry, and I should have been saying that what the grant funds. I'm sorry. The purpose is more about the types of agreements that they're going to have for you to support the what. So what I just said was regarding the what are they funding? Are they going to fund evaluation? They're going to fund research. They're going to fund you to improve understanding of the causes of economic distress, how to remove entrenched poverty, and determine the causes of excessive unemployment. Rhonda, if they say, hey, we're trying to make sure these women that come out of this certified training are not unemployed, we want to help them minimize their unemployment status. This could have been a perfect one 2 years ago for your efforts. Formulate and implement economic development tools. So here's some strategies. So this is like, oh, what I have proposed is a way for these individuals, that curricula you created, to be able to help them be innovative in their ability to get employed or be entrepreneurs, right? So this says, hey, we will help you formulate and implement development tools for the people you're working with, right? Evaluate effectiveness and economic impact for programs, disseminate information about effective programs. So even somewhat of a marketing, this bullet here, disseminate information about effective programs. So if I have an effective program, your retreats, and you're able to say, oh, I want to disseminate, your marketing person wants to disseminate information about the effectiveness of the program, the impact, how to alleviate some of the conditions and economic distress, if that's a component of your retreats, then all of a sudden these resources become available for you to focus on that bullet. So what they show you here is that, hey, these are the things we fund. So I want you guys to imagine these bullets matching up with your fact sheet, and then integrating them both and trying to assess whether this opportunity and what their purpose is and what your purpose is and how well that matches. And so what I'm going to do now is show you how that works on our system. So there's a couple more things, special requirements, always read that. And then we always give our clients a specific idea as to how this project could work for them. And then if there's any concerns or issues, it's always stated at the bottom. But so now Jade, I want her to come on, and she's going to show you how this works in the platform. And now you guys need to understand this step-by-step process, because let me go back. Because you are sharing the screen. I think just go to share. Because when you get to our second point, which is aligning your projects with the funder's priorities, you can do it manually. And that's the things I have here. And there's a form in your resource library called identifying the funding priorities of your funder, right? Like, what do I need to be paying attention to, or what is the software really going to be paying attention to in order to make sure it's matching me with those funders' priorities. And so here are some of the things that are on that list. If you go into the library, you'll see it as well, but it says clearly define your outcomes and make sure they're measurable, and then see if they resonate with the funder's history of projects they funded. So one of the good things we also do is look at what they funded before, and it's in our database, and it can do some comparison analysis. So we'll let you be able to see if that's a comparison or not. Then providing measurable data-driven outcomes that affects the funder's designed impact. So there's also some things there that says, is what I'm that yay story, that feel good story that I'm talking about, is that going to resonate with what the funders looking to have an impact on as well? Confirm that your proven successes is similar to what the funders has funded previously. So there's tons of those things that you need to check, but the good news is we do that automatically now. And then how to create your E3P3, sorry, I say E3P pound partner, but that's basically saying when you do that and those priorities are met, you have to be able to create the right partnerships. So there's also a list in the library that's called your NRDC Industry Experts Platform, right? And what that means is if I'm an E1 and my score is not what it needs to be to pursue the grant, typically it's because of partners. And so if it says, hey, Rhonda, you need to find a partner that's done construction development before because you're gonna have to buy a new building and construct it for whatever reason, and that needs to be one of your partners. You would then have to go into the E2 category and say, okay, let me find what type of partner I need in order to increase my score. So when I submit it to Department of Commerce or whatever opportunity you're looking at, it's going to score higher because the system shows how your application is going to score better if you have this type of partner or if you have this type of experience. And so let's just say even in experience, it says, oh, I'm asking for $1 million. It's like, shoot, I've never managed $1 million. And it says, well, go find a partner who's managed $1 million. So then you go to the area of focus that you're focusing on and look for the type of industry expert that has managed millions of dollars in their capacity of what you're doing. And you was like, okay, let me get them. You put them in your partner with them. That's the whole process. You partner with them. And then now when the grantee reads your applicant capabilities, like, oh, Rhonda and this person, Jana and this person has managed millions of dollars before. Jana hasn't done it by herself. Marsha, you haven't done it by yourself, but with this partner, they've done this before. So all of a sudden, your somewhat not so great score in having done this before goes up because you got a good partner in there that has done it before. So partnerships creation it helps too. So we're going to show you how to match first. We're going to create partners next time, but I want you guys to see how this all works. And so, Jay, do I need to share my screen with you or? I think I do. And I'm sorry, one other thing before she shows you that. It's creating your fact sheet, which I think you guys, we talked about that a little bit today, but you have to have your fact sheet to find out what opportunity is you're most capable of. And so let's see. I need to stop sharing. Okay. So let me show you how this works. And please take notes as she's going through this because you'll be asked to do this to find your top 10 in the grant opportunities that fit best for you. Top 10 to the first, to the top, to the one you select. Okay. And she's going to pick it up from here. And go ahead and make it larger. And now I'm going to bring you guys up to speed to where she's at. So, I don't know if you can go back one, Jade, if you can, great. If not, so what happened was you guys created your fact sheet. And I'm sorry, I should, okay, I'm sorry. So this is the link you're all getting tonight. This is your link that says, hey, how do I find my score and match my opportunity for my priority passion project? So each of you are going to get this link and then you would fill in the information. You can scroll down to the end. It's real basic. My name, my organization's name. If you have website, you have to have an EIN number because it goes to places where your EIN number is and it pulls in other facts about you and your mission and organization. If you have a website, it'll go to the website and pick up information from there that says, oh, this is what they've done and this is some of their successes. If you've had newspaper articles about what you're doing and all the things that are amazing about you, it'll pick this up and it'll work towards creating this grant related fact sheet. So things that are not grant related, don't worry, it won't show up. And then we do validate to make sure if it does show up before you get it, we eliminate things that are not grant related, but it's somewhat trained, hopefully effectively, to bring in only that information that's going to make your grant fact sheet strong, right? So this data, very simple, it's not obtrusive, it's very just drop down menu type stuff, select, select, select. It should take you all of maybe 5 minutes. Keep on scrolling down, Jade. I can't even, I don't know if it can be bigger because I can't read it.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then so keep scrolling. Now this is the information that's going to be pulled in. They don't have to put this information in. They just have to put in the top part, the short form.
Yes, that's correct. Not all of this is required. And then there's items with drop-down menus as well, so it just makes the process simpler of filling out the form, but should take you 5 minutes all in all.
Okay. And I'll let you go on from here. Just go ahead. So explain from here and then go into the portal and the scoring.
Okay, so after filling out this form, which is essentially your fact sheet, there will also be the documents from your portal connected to the fact sheet as well, and using all of the information that you put in as well as the documents that have been uploaded, that creates your grant fact sheet, which is what we use to score your organization against RFP opportunities. So in your portal, once the fact sheet and account is created, you will start receiving notices about opportunities that you have been matched with on a daily basis.
And
So
again,
right
Jade,
now,
sorry, can you make it bigger? Because I can't see that either.
okay.
There you go.
So right now we are in the portal of a client, Young Visionaries, and this is their matching documents. And if you scroll to the right, you'll see the score for those documents and then the agencies that the document or the RFP was put out from. So I'm just going to click on an opportunity from the CA.
And wait, before you do that, so you guys notice the score of the top 10, and I can barely see again. I think that's 90, 85.
90, 86, 83.3. Then it goes down to 82, 80. I think those are the top 10, and then 78.33.
Okay. So go ahead. And then you're just going to select a random one.
Yes.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a certain score that we should stay above?
So you could start at one that said 70 or 65, right? Because maybe you're like, oh my God, this is perfect. It might say doing conferences nationally and internationally, right? You're like, that's what I want to do. And the score might be 65, which we're not going to recommend you submit any grant from the portal unless it's 80. But if you start at 65 and you select it, you're going to find out why. And this is the good part. And you may be able to mitigate or minimize some of those reasons why you didn't score well, like why it's a 65. And you're like, oh my God, I do have an international partner, right? So you go back, you add that to your fact sheet, then all of a sudden that score is going to go up to 70. And then it's going to say something else. Oh, you've never managed a large grant of this nature. And you say, oh, but I can partner with Cindy, who's smart. You partner with Cindy, you go back, and now that score keeps going up. So the goal is to get that score to an 80 or above. Obviously, the work's going to be less if you start at 80, right? To get to 80 and above. But if you see something you like below 80, you got to work to get it to 80 or above at least before you submit. A good question. Okay.
Okay, so I just clicked on an opportunity. So this is essentially what you just saw, a summary tool that breaks down the 45 page document. Sometimes it can be that length. And it's just a short summary tool, has the due date, the URL, how much money and funds are expected, the source, it's a state grant, and then just more notes in the description and the purpose, as we saw before on the other summary tool. And then on the right-hand side, I'm going to try to make my screen bigger so you can see. Jan, I think you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so if it's
Question.
a state grant, does it have to be like where we're at in order to do it, or can we do anywhere, any grants anywhere, or will it say it on there if we're eligible, depending on what state we're in?
Yes. So depending on what state you're in, it automatically, does federal opportunities, which of course anybody can apply for. And then the fact sheet will pull out that you're in, whatever state and match it with state opportunities from the state that you're in that you'll be eligible for.
Thank you.
So on the right, there are several criteria when using the fact sheet to find opportunities. So I think this one actually scored a little lower, 66.67. So not the best opportunity for young visionaries. As you can see, there's 3 in yellow and 1 in red and only 2 in green. Now, clicking on the criteria and what it was scored against, so you can see young visionaries scored a 60 out of 100. And then once you click on it, it'll tell you why that happened and how you can improve. So Young Visionaries currently focuses on enriching the lives of underprivileged youth. However, there's no specific emphasis on supporting artists with disabilities. Now that's true. Young Visionaries does a lot of workforce development opportunities, life skills, working with youth in San Bernardino County. So in their fact sheet, there's not many specificities towards supporting artists, young artists, or artists with disabilities. So they were correct in scoring that 60 out of 100.
And let me pause. And so what young visionaries could do to increase that one score is they could say, oh, shoot, either we do work with kids with disabilities or different, the platform that's saying, I can't read it again, as to where they're falling short, or they can know a partner that does do that, that can really bring in that component and work with them. And young visionaries say, hey, we're going to stay in my lane. I'm going to keep doing what we do, but I'm going to partner with agency X, who also works with kids with disabilities and kids that are in the arts, entertainment, or what have you. And now together, adding that to his fact sheet, that score will go up, right? And that would only be if he feels that he could get, again, by making adjustments through all the yellow and red on this opportunity for him, that he could get that score to go up. All right, Jade, I'm sorry, turn it back over to you.
Really quick question. Is it
Mhm.
something that he could add into his business as this is what we're going to do going forward for kids, artists with disabilities, or does it have to be something they're already doing?
It should not be something that you, if it's really to the core of your PPP, going back to what you're really committed to, we always say stay in your lane, do what you do it best. And this is why partnerships matter. So we would say don't try to make your core grow. You are good at what you do, keep doing it. Find those people that are good at what they do, working with those kids that are, in that space that cause them to score low, and partner. Let them do the amazing work they do and keep doing it, and let it just enhance what you do versus you trying to become the, what we say, jack of all trades. Then you lose your identity. Then this whole chart becomes a chart of everything and not just what you really want to do and what you're committed to.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so it's really just explaining where they're lacking and where it's not necessarily matching up and what can be done to improve. So partners is one way to go. And if it's not far from the core, then of course adding an avenue with artists and disabilities can be something that Young Visionaries does. Applicant eligibility, they scored 100 out of 100. Same idea. This is really just like eligible. So they're in California, they're a nonprofit, they have a 501c3, they've been in business for 5 years. Really just like what makes an applicant eligible. It might be geographic area. It might be that they have the ability to provide a 10% match, which the funder is asking for. The same idea as the other criteria, how well they scored on it, what they can do to improve if that's possible, or just their overall alignment.
And so the goal, are you good, Jade? Are you have anything else?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So the goal, ladies, is to be able to get to this point of seeing your top 10, getting your top 10. And we're going to, so here's the steps. 1, we send you the link. 2, you complete that link and we will be notified that you have completed your grant fact information, right? That will trigger the creation of what you see here. Your top, we'll feed it into the system for you, and it's going to create your top 10 opportunities. So your goal this week is to be able to get us to send you your top 10 identified opportunities. And then with your top 10 opportunities, the reason we went through the RFP, so you don't have to read the full 40, 50 pages for all of them, you'll see your score and you'll see the summary tool. And we want you to, from reviewing the summary tool by next week, pick one opportunity, just one, that you want to pursue. Based on the scoring, based on the summary tools you'll be able to review, you want to pick one. And you'll Jay, I'm not even sure if they're going to be able to see the so once you pick the one, and I guess let's see, how am I gonna do this? You pick the one. If you send it to us, if you pick it before next Sunday, we can then see what the strategies are that you would need to do to get an 80 or higher, or let you know if you're going to score 80 or higher. And I want to figure out how to mitigate those strategies, but that's part of the partnership building, which we're going to go over next week. So I'm just going to say, get your top 10, review the summary tool, pick your one. That's the goal for next week. Get your top 10, review your RFPs plural, and pick your top one. All right. I have gone over today, ladies, so I'm going to, Jade, yield back your time of the speaker back to me so I can end this real quick. I want to go over a couple things real quick if I can figure out how to get control of the screen back, Jade.
Okay, I just stopped sharing, so you should be able to.
Oh, you know. I think I'm out of the portal altogether. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so this is what we just went over. I said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to get to the point where you're able to select the grant you want to consider. We're going to give you this slide deck, so you'll have this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are kind of the things you want to do between now and next week. And then we'll go into selecting and pursuing. So things you need to know to get your green light and points for next session. And I kind of have the 1-pointers next to it. And so that's really to make sure you add the list of your top 10 to your grant vault. So when you get it, you want to always keep it there, because even though we're picking one today, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And remember, we want to get as many grants out as we can. So once you understand this process, there should not be a limit to how many grants you get out the door. So add the list of your top 10 to your grant vault. 2, we're going to score. I'm going to have to take that off. Score the grants. We're going to do that with you. I want you to get the green light from MHM on your vault. and you get the green light on your vault because of the checklist. So really hone in on that checklist, you guys, this week. And again, obtain the UEI. I know you have some challenges. Some of you, a couple of you called and said with challenges with that. And so what we want to do is if you can't get your UEI, we're going to allow you to use your EIN for now, but by week 5, we do want you to get your UEI because we're going to need that to pursue the federal opportunities. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then your 5th point is going to be as a result of you either having your coaching session or reviewing your videos in our learning session. And we'll just have a quick question we'll ask, and you guys will be able to get a point for that. But outside of that, that's how you get your green lights for next week. The interactive activity, Jay just went over that. Typically, we were going to have you guys complete your form, your link today while we were on the call. Too much time going over everything else, so we don't. Any questions based on what we've gone over today before we close? And I think we've been asking some questions along the way, so hopefully there's a level of clarity. Again, put in the chat before we go through these 5 things, because you got to keep your mind, we got to stay focused on, am I learning these things as I'm in this session? Am I learning how to find and apply for competitive grants? Am I learning some grant writing essentials, being focused, helping my reviewers be imaginative? Am I learning how to network for success, Jana, build some partnerships instead of expanding my scope of my business? Am I learning how this week to maximize my funding potential? Did I learn something today? Did I hear something today that's going to make me maybe be able to tap in to some grants that I weren't really initially considering? And the last thing is to make sure you're learning that you now know that you have access to something in our portal that can help you. So just to help me out and to help us be better at doing this for those coming before you or after you, put in the chat where you at with 1 through 5 as far as learning at least one thing in these 5 areas. 1 through 5, 1 through 5. Let me know, help me out, and then that way we can always make sure we're strengthening, being better, doing better.